At this time, I will call the meeting of the Marshall City Council to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone, here this evening. Before we proceed with the agenda, we want to do a recognition of Steve Meister. This is his last meeting. Steve, I'm going to have...
Bob, shouldn't we wait till he's done?
I might just leave.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
So we have a recognition plaque on behalf of the city and the council for your years of service, 2017 to 2024 in the Marshall City Council. You've been a dedicated leader. You were a leader through the pandemic, numerous videos that you did, always cared about your constituents and your people, and also kept your career in line too, and your family. So thank you, Dr. Meister, for your service.
Thank you very much.
We have a agenda before us. Are there any changes to that agenda? So here's a change I'm going to suggest to the council. A number of the people, I think the vast majority of the people are here for agenda item number 16. So rather than make everyone wait through 15 agenda items, I would like to move agenda item number 16 to directly after the approval of the minutes. Is there any objection to that?
Do we need a motion for that or not?
I don't think so. The City Attorney Whitmore, are you online? Okay, Pam Whitmore, are you online?
I am.
So, as city attorney, I had just, because we have quite a crowd here, all interested in, not all, but most interested in agenda item number 16, I'm going to move that up on the agenda to directly after the minutes are considered. You have any objection to that?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. So, agenda item number 2 then would be to consider the approval of the minutes of the meeting that was held on December 10th. The council does have those minutes. Are there any corrections?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Craig, seconded by Steve to approve the minutes as they have been presented. We will move to a vote. We'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. Okay. So now we're going to move to agenda item number 16. This is discussion of the notice of closure from Broadmoor Manufactured Home Park. This is not a public hearing, but because of the interest that's here, I've talked to a representative of the homeowners association and a representative of the owner, who can make a statement or who will be allowed to speak, but really the purpose and the action item here is to set the date for the public hearing. So I'll call on our city attorney, Pam Whitmore, to really give the background information, and then I'll turn it to Sharon Hansen, city administrator, who will talk about the recommended date and location for the public hearing. Pam Whitmore is our city attorney. Pam?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Good evening. I assume you can hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So the city did in fact receive notice from Mr. Shearholes on behalf of Shearholes and Associates with the intent to cease operation of Broadmoor Valley as a manufactured home park. This is a statutory process that can be found under Minnesota Statutes 327C07 and the succeeding statutes after that. And it really sets forth a process that's in place for these types of closures to happen. And I understand there is a lot of folks in the room. And to your point, Mr. Mayor, tonight is not the actual public hearing, but that is a big part of what this statute does. So the statute loops in the city when these notices get sent as, for lack of a better word, a host for a public hearing. So that public has the opportunity to come to a forum and discuss the impact of the intended closure. So that is really what the role of the city is, and to then make sure once this council sets that date, a public hearing, then the city does send notice of that date of hearing so that to residents, based on a list that we have received, the city has received from Mr. Shearholes. So that's the other piece of the statutory responsibilities that the city has with respect to receiving this notice. In the packet tonight, I have set forth the timeline. That timeline is based out of statutory requirements. We did receive notice on 11/22 that had all of the requirements in the notice included, so that triggered the timeline to start. And so tonight is the meeting where we're asking council to set the date of public hearing. And then February 20th, 2025 is the last date by which this council would be hosting that hearing to happen for the public to be able to be heard. So as part of that hearing, I'll be preparing a memo for the council for what to expect at that hearing, but a quorum of the council is required to be able to host that hearing. At that hearing, the council's responsibility is to appoint a third party neutral to serve as an arbiter, so to speak, of different decisions that need to be made, and the home owners in that park and the residents will have the opportunity to submit information to that third party neutral and to seek financial assistance from a housing trust that is set up and administered by Minnesota Housing. So the statute asks or requests or suggests that the mobile home park owner and the residents have an agreement on who that third party person is. That's if that can't happen, then the city does take over the responsibility of just appointing that third party person. So that would be what would be happening actually at the hearing itself once that happens. And unless you have questions, I think that's my big overview of the statute itself. I'd be open for questions before you have any other conversation or hear from the representatives in the room.
Does council have any questions for City Attorney Whitmore?
Not at this time.
Sharon?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and Council, just reviewing the timeline that the city attorney put forth and the last date of the public hearing, staff did reach out to different venues. We maybe anticipate higher attendance at this particular public hearing, and we are suggesting holding this public hearing at the Marshall Middle School Auditorium, just to provide some more space and opportunity for additional residents to attend and others. And the date availability, there's several dates available in February. Staff are recommending, however, Tuesday, February 18th, just to kind of align a little bit about our practice of meeting on Tuesday nights. This is a third week of the month, so hopefully it is not conflicting with other council member schedules. So staff are recommending February 18th, 2025 for this public hearing date.
Okay, any questions for Sharon? So that is the recommendation before we move to the action item, as I mentioned earlier, because of the importance of this issue, the high level of interest in this, as well as the number of people that came out this evening. Not a public hearing, but I will open it up for public statements, both from the spokesperson for the homeowners as well as, and property owners, as well as Mr. Sherholz as owner of the park. So whichever one of you want to go first, either Mr. Sherholz or you can go at the same time. So.
Paul can go first.
Paul, do you wish to make any comments first?
Actually, I prefer to go second. Is that possible?
Well, then I guess I'll come.
Okay. So someone has to be the first, so you'll be first.
And thank you all for coming. And I'm speaking for all those people and all the ones that couldn't come tonight.
Okay. So thank you for being the spokesperson. For the record, and for the city clerk, for the minutes, if you give your name and your address.
My name is Deborah Springer Erdl, and I live at 517 Locust Drive in Marshall, Minnesota.
Thank you.
And I have this prepared saying. My name is Deb Erdl, along with my husband Vince. We live at 517 Locust Drive at Broadmoor Valley, manufactured home park in Marshall. I have lived there for 30 years. We have recently received a closure notice for the place I have made my home for 30 years. While I've lived at Broadmoor, I've seen the steady decline of roads and infrastructure in the park because of the owner's willful lack of investment in it. Despite consistent rent increases, homes that Shire Holtz lays claim to often end up dilapidated and inhabitable, but remain standing as hazardous eyesores for everyone who lives there, anyone coming in to visit or driving through. As you may also know, Shire Holtz and Associates entered into a contract for grant funds which placed restrictive covenants that required the land to be used as a manufactured home park for 25 years. Part of that agreement was to hold rent increases to 5% or less annually. Shire Holtz has already attempted to increase rents above 5% and is currently trying to back out of his agreement to keep the park open. For 6 years now, we have been organized as a residents association. We have been fair and played by all of the rules set forth by state and local entities. There are a lot of legal barriers and protections set up to benefit Shire Holtz. The park residents are at a steep disadvantage, but we have done everything we can and will continue to do so. The City Council has the power to act on behalf of many residents of the City of Marshall. That includes the residents of Broadmoor Valley. We are in a desperate situation, and we need the City of Marshall to be courageous and act aggressively. So, don't allow Shire Holtz to close Broadmoor Valley. The covenant that he agreed to doesn't allow change of use for 25 years. Closing the park is a change of use. You have the power to deny this change of use. Review the second park closure notice sent to residents again. We believe that it doesn't meet the legal requirements and set in the statute. The statute requires that availability be listed. The latest notice lists availability as unknown, so it is a deficit. Investigate options to intervene. Can the city step in to take control over the infrastructure, public streets, municipal utilities? Is eminent domain an option? Hold Shire Holtz and Associates accountable for suspected violations of city building code and permitting violations. That's permitting. 2 offers in the billions have been made on behalf of the residents to purchase Broadmoor. If Shire Holtz would accept the offer, it would be the beginning of a rebuilding process, ending years in neglect and disrepair. If it is no longer a viable business option for Shire Holtz, the residents are willing to take care of our homes and neighborhood. We have pressured the owner for 6 years to respect the residents and fix the park. Yet here we are today looking at a possible closure. Don't let the owner close the park in retaliation to the residents for asking for better living conditions. If you haven't done it lately, or if you haven't ever been there, please take a drive through our streets and lovely park. It is not too late to save Broadmoor. We are hardworking people with families, and we contribute to our city with taxes and utility payments like everyone else. We shop in town, we work in town, and our children attend this local school district. We need your help to prevent these injustices. There you have it.
Thank you, Deb. And again, for the record, Paul, you identify yourself and your address.
Yes. You want me to introduce myself?
Yes.
Paul Shearholtz. The Broadmoor Valley community is owned by Shearholtz and Associates, Inc., a corporation, and I am the stockholder. Is that enough?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want me to make a statement? Or respond or what? Or say anything I want?
As I said earlier, I'm giving you the opportunity to speak briefly about the issue of the closure notice.
Right. A couple points of interest is the fact that there's a lot of confluence of situations that got us to this point. I, over the years, had been encouraged by people from the city, et cetera, to close the community, and I've resisted that. So I saw it, and some of the issues that the current residents have a problem with. I told them 6-7 years ago that the infrastructure was not designed properly to begin with. The city's had a problem with it before I even owned it, and then it's really never been addressed properly. And so I've agreed many times in writing, meetings back into 2018 with the residents. I said that the infrastructure is old. The roads are not in a condition that I'd like to see them. And however, because our only income comes from the rents that they pay, we couldn't figure out. I asked them to try to figure out how we were going to pay for like new roads or something like that. However, the statement that I'm going to make is the fact that we are licensed and regulated by the Minnesota Department of Health. And we get regular inspections, and we were under the state statute, which I brought with me, regarding the roads. The roads are not city streets, they're private roads. They're to meet the standards of the state statute, Minnesota Department of Health. Minnesota Department of Health has not fined us, threatened to fine us, caused a reinspection fee or anything like this for compliance with the Minnesota Department of Health rules. So therefore, the question is, I pose to them and the city and the state is if, because of the location of the community having housing growing around it, the fact is that if so basically everybody's got a problem. If you want streets that look like the city, if you want new say water system, a new electrical system, which frankly The water system, electrical system, and the sewer system is all working. We don't have a lot of problems with it. The roads are passable, meet state law. And however, if everybody wants it to be nicer, somebody's got to come up with some way of getting more funds. I was encouraged. I talked to John DeCramer in, I know for sure in 2021, and he had told me about a new program that the Minnesota Housing had started in 2020. And I had asked to meet with the city council in 2021. However, he did not return my call and set up the meeting. And I've asked to speak with the council several times about the issue. I was encouraged to apply for a grant from Minnesota Housing to solve this problem, because if we could get the funds from the state, in fact, my understanding is they put together this fund for this very purpose. If we could get the funds from the state to replace or repair the infrastructure, the community would stay open. I applied by myself in 2021 for a grant, and I had started early, as soon as the RFP came out, which is, I think it was like early in the summer of 2021. And meanwhile, when I tried to get people to help me apply for the grant, but I couldn't get any support. So I did it on my own. And what I didn't know is while I was applying for the grant, the Attorney General and the City of Marshall and the Residents United were all preparing lawsuits against our company. And they filed lawsuits. I got 3 lawsuits against our company, virtually all similar claims, except probably the Attorney General's claim was probably comprehensive, pretty much included everybody's. And then early in January, we were awarded $500,000. I had also written a letter to the tenants, and I implored them to get on boat with us. The tenant organization has not supported us getting any funds in 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024. I've applied for grant funds every single year based on what the city encouraged me to do. In fact, I was reluctant to take the first $500,000 because of the fact that both the city and I agreed that it wasn't enough money. They implored me to hire Bolton and Mink to do a study before we spent any money, and they did. And so therefore, we got estimates in 2022 for what they thought it would cost to repair or replace the infrastructure. However, when we applied in 2022, 2023, 2024, there was a lot of interaction between the Attorney General, the City of Marshall, the Residents United, and Minnesota Housing with a coordination to deny us from getting any funds. And so they denied us funds, even though we put together excellent proposals that were scored very high with the reviewers. In both 2022 and 2023, we were denied funds. I had a meeting with the residents Sunday, and I showed them documents from the Minnesota Housing, how they had scored our proposals very high, but then when they actually came down to, they had plenty of money. When they came down to awarding the money, they excluded Broadmoor Valley. So our conclusion was, after all of that, is the fact that the Minnesota Housing does not want to fund Broadmoor Valley. So therefore, we put out the park closure letter.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah.
Again, the action item tonight is to set the date of the public hearing, and the recommendation is that that date be set at February 18th, and the location would be the Marshall Middle School Theater. And the purpose of that public hearing is compliance with the state statute that addresses the potential closure of mobile home community parks, as well as the potential for relocation assistance.
What would the start time be for that, Bob?
Do we have a recommended start time?
We were recommending 5:30.
Thanks for that clarification. So
That in a motion?
I would entertain a motion.
I would make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Craig, seconded by C. Now, discussion on the motion.
The only discussion I would say, this would be a very important issue for me, but I do have a prior family commitment that day. So I cannot make it because that commitment is not changeable.
Our requirement is to have quorum, correct?
Correct. I just
That
want-
is
So if
correct.
people say, where's Jim? I will try to listen in, but I have a prior commitment because it is not a regular city council evening. I work very strenuously around city council days.
Thank you. City Attorney Whitmore, would you want to clarify and you will, as you indicated, will be putting out a memo, but the role of the city council is to convene and conduct the public hearing and appoint the third-party neutral at that time, correct?
Correct. So that is, the statute's very specific as far as the city council having a quorum present to hold a public hearing and run in a manner of in a similar manner of other public hearings where interested parties have the opportunity to speak about the impact of this. But the role of the city at that meeting is to hold the hearing and to appoint a third-party neutral to work with the Mr. Shearholes and Associates and the residents to arbitrate different issues.
So, and for the public here, that public hearing, this will be the only topic, and there'll be no limitation on the number of people that can speak at that public hearing, or no limitation on time. Any other discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote on the motion. We'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. Again, we thank everyone for being here. We are going to proceed with the remainder of the agenda. Agenda item number 3 is a request for on-sale wine license. This is a public hearing for request for on-sale wine license for the Marshall A's, public hearing, and a request to approve the on-sale wine and 3.2 license for the Marshall A's. I'll call on Stephen Anderson to conduct the public hearing on this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you had mentioned, this is a public hearing for the Marshall A's Baseball Association. They had requested that the City Council approve an on-sale wine license. Back on October 8th, the City Council passed an ordinance amending the city's Chapter 6 alcoholic beverage ordinance. With that ordinance change, it allows certain entities to possess a liquor license, which will now match what state statute has. Once that was passed, we were approached by the A's to have the liquor license. If there's any questions, I am available.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Questions from the council as part of the public hearing? Is there anyone here in the audience that wishes to speak as part of this public hearing? Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Steve, seconded by Craig. Just to close the public hearing, discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. We'll move then to the award of bids. We'll consider the award of bids for the ILS Instrument Landing System replacement at,
Mr. Mayor, can we do
Oh,
the
I'm
second?
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
the public hearing, but we really should take
Consider the
action
request,
on the issues of the public hearing. So let's take these one at a time. The request to approve the on-sale wine and 3-2 malt liquor license for the Marshall A's Association.
Move that motion.
Second.
Motion by Steve, seconded by Jim. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. And we'll close the voting. And the motion passes. Again, thank you for that clarification. So now we'll move to the award of bids for the ILS replacement. We'll consider the award of bids and authorize the submittal of the grant request. Jason Anderson, City Attorney, Director of Public Works.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a project we started talking about probably better than 2 years ago with MnDOT. The instrument landing system electronics are owned by MnDOT, and MnDOT has an interest in getting them replaced, so they approached the city about doing that. As part of the project, they provide the electronics in the shelter. We do all the civil site work, footings, foundations, and the associated engineering design. So we do have bids now. Bids were received on December 10th. We received 4 proposals. The low proposal was submitted by Werner Brothers, Inc. for $360,306. With council's authorization, city staff would propose to submit for a MnDOT grant, 70-30, with the city being 30% cost participation on that $360,000. If there are any questions, I can try to address them, but we have 2 recommendations. One is to award the project to Werner contingent upon our receipt of grant funding, and the other recommendation is to authorize staff to submit for that grant.
Questions for Jason?
I do have a question. With these bids being so far apart, and first of all, Warner Brothers is a great local company. They've been in town for a long time. But is there a concern with such a separation from the low bid to the next bid?
We did talk about that, city staff, and as well as TKDA, our engineering consultant at the airport. We did have some conversations with Werner. We do feel comfortable that the project is understood and that they'll be able to deliver. This is under the estimate, but 2 of the 4 bids were over our engineer's estimate as well.
Thank you. Greg, anything from the Airport Commission?
No, it's just, again, this has been a priority for the Airport Commission to get this up and running, basic up and flying. So, yeah, it's pretty important. We definitely recommend moving forward.
And Stephen, we can handle this in one motion, the award of bids as well as the submission of the grant.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
I would make that motion.
I'd second it.
Motion by Craig, seconded by Steve. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. We'll move to the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda we'll bring up on the screen, and they include the approval of the employee retirement resolutions, consider the approval of a resolution to authorize the finance director to pay certain claims, consider the approval of the adult community center rental contracts with adult basic education and Lutheran Social Services, consider the authorization for transfer of funds and the temporary financing for the aquatic center, to authorize the transfer of funds for debt service funds, consider the amendment to commercial lease and the fixed-based operators agreement with Southwest Aviation, consider the approval of liquor license renewals for 2025, consider the approval of the taxi cab license renewals, consider the acceptance of donations to the Adult Community Center, consider the acceptance of donations to the Marshall Fire Department, and finally, consider the approval of the bills and the project payments. Is there any item on the consent agenda any member of the council wants removed for separate discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull out 7, please.
Any other item? If not, is there a motion for the remaining items on the consent
So
agenda?
moved.
Motion by Steve, seconded by Amanda. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. And we'll close the voting. motion does pass. See, I assume you want to abstain?
Yes, correct.
Any other questions?
Nope.
If not, is there a motion for agenda item number 7?
Second.
Motion by Craig, seconded by John. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. We'll note the abstention. Okay, agenda item number 17, consider the approval of the labor agreement between the city and Law Enforcement Labor Services, Inc., local number 245. I'll ask Sheila Dubbs, Human Resources Director, to present this.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The collective bargaining agreement that you have before you this evening is with our Law Enforcement Labor Services. This is our police supervisors unit that has the sergeants in it. The current agreement does expire on December 31st of this year. Staff have been in negotiations with them, and we have reached tentative agreement on terms for a new 3-year agreement. I'll briefly review that. I did put background in your packets as well, if you want to review that with me or have any questions. The general wage increases proposed in this tentative agreement are consistent with those approved by the council for the patrol unit and the non-union group at a previous meeting. There were a number of housekeeping items, such as updates to the cover page and article numbers, page numbers, updates to the dates of the insurances article, removing language related to prior comp study in Appendix A, removing the MOU and adding the Juneteenth holiday to Article 18, updating the equipment list in Appendix B, and then incorporating the MOU on implementation dates for the general wage increases into Article 25 on wages. In Article 13, there's a tentative agreement to increase the footwear allowance from $150 to $200. And then similar to what we did with the patrol group, the vacation article, this is a new clause with an optional cash payout of up to 48 hours of earned vacation that the employee has, a balance of allowing them to cash out 80% of the maximum that they have allowed in that bank. There are 2 additional clauses in the sick leave article, and those are related to the Minnesota Earned Safe and Sick Leave Law. There is an article that is new in the leave of absence, Article 20. That's related to the new Minnesota Paid Family Medical Leave Law that will be starting on January 1st of 2026. And this one indicates that the union and the city will split the premium 50-50. In Article 23, court time, that's an increase from 2 hours of pay to 3 hours of pay for court time. And then for wages, again, consistent with the prior groups, 4% general wage increase each of the 3 years, and the first year is an 85-cent market adjustment on steps A through I and a $1 market adjustment on step J, just for year 2025. And then the last, not the last item, FTO pay is a new clause in this particular contract. The patrol contract has FTO, this contract did not. So we have one sergeant that performs this duty on occasion. That sergeant would get $1.50 an hour only when performing this duty. And then the last item is the post-license fee that the employer will pay that fee. Previously in the contract, it was listed at $90. It is still $90, has been that way for over 20 years. We don't anticipate it changing, but just making that so that the employer will pay the license fee and not a dollar amount. And those are the changes. If there's any questions, I can certainly answer those. Otherwise, there's a resolution in your packets, and staff are recommending approval.
Okay, thank you, Sheila, and thank you as well as Administrator Hanson for your work on the negotiation and this proposed agreement. Sharon?
Yeah, I just want to comment that this union is subject to interest arbitration. This tentative agreement avoids interest arbitration. And to just put that in simple terms, a union could seek interest arbitration if not reaching an agreement, and a judge would or could order wage settlements or wage, what we would have to agree to as a city. And I also want to just comment, besides what the city is subjected to in terms of this particular union, the police department makes up a little over $3.5 million of the 9.8 levy. So it is a portion of our levy and a major portion of the levy, but we are bound to negotiate and are happy that we have a tentative agreement to avoid interest arbitration.
Questions for either Sharon or Sheila?
I move to approve Resolution 24-116, approving the 25 through 27 labor agreement and the memorandum of agreement with the Law Enforcement Labor Service Local 245.
Second.
Motion by Craig, seconded by Steve. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. And we'll close the voting. Motion does pass. We'll move then to agenda item number 18, consider the acceptance of donations made to the Marshall Parks and Recreation Department for fiscal year 2024. Preston Stensrud, Park Superintendent, you're going to present this.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, just wanted to highlight another successful year in Parks and Recreation, thanks to the People Association and the businesses in Marshall. I won't go through each of them, but a lot of the money went to various different things, from playgrounds to tree care and Emerald Ash Borer, improvements at the Legion Field, the Aquatic Center, of course, soccer fields, softball and baseball fields, disc golf, concessions, memorial benches, adding additional security cameras, and then also kind of donations towards equipment in recreation. But overall, nearly $250,000 in donations for those various items. Some of them are ongoing that'll continue each year, like the inclusive playground and the Emerald Ash Borer treatment. So it just really allows us to go and take our facilities and parks kind of to the next level, in my opinion. And a lot of these things wouldn't be able to get completed without the support of the community. So just wanted to say thank you to all the generous donors. And we have a great community to be a part of, and the support is phenomenal. So
Thank you, Preston, and thank you for you and your staff's work on this, because when we have projects that are great candidates for donation participation, that's because we have good management and good projects that are available. So thank you for that. Any questions for Preston or additional input or comments?
The only comment I make, we should be thankful for the donations we get. There's some very large donations in here. And I was going through it this morning, and I texted Preston at 6:30, which I'm up early, he's up early. I just noticed there's some very nice large donations, and we're very thankful for those people and those organizations.
Yeah, very good.
Absolutely.
So I would entertain a motion on the acceptance of the donations.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Jim, seconded by Steve. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. Close the voting. And the motion does pass. We'll move then to agenda item number 19, consider the acceptance of donations to the administration department.
I know this looks like this is money coming to the administration department, but it is not. So EJ's going to cover this. Yeah.
Go ahead, EJ. EJ Moberg is our Director of Administrative Services. EJ.
Thank you. This money is right now earmarked as administration department. It actually is money from Sunrise Rotary via the Ted Rowe Legacy Fund. Sunrise Rotary has pretty much diverted the money to the city for us to use for certain projects. We just don't know what those projects are yet from Sunrise Rotary. They've talked about things such as the Aquatic Center and band shell as possibilities. We're waiting for final details from Sunrise Rotary to make the determination of where they'd like to see those monies spent. But since that money came in October of this year and we try to get donations approved every year, we're here before you tonight to ask for the resolution to accept the funds, realizing that we will put those to use as designated at a later date.
Thank you, EJ. Questions? If not, is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by John,
Second.
seconded by Craig. Discussion? If not, move to a vote. And we'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. Okay, we'll move to agenda item number 20, which is the Tiger Office Park. We have the action to consider would be the approval of the preliminary plat, as well as consider the resolution that would adopt the final plat. This was considered by the Planning Commission. It was they held the hearing on it, and then it was introduced at the last council meeting. Jason?
Thank you, Mayor. Included in the packet are both the preliminary and final plats, as well as the engineer's checklist for review on both. The purpose of the plat is to place each building in Tiger Office Park into individual lots. This city staff did review. The plat does conform with the city's ordinances. As you indicated, the Planning Commission held a hearing on December 4th, and they recommended approval. City staff would also recommend approval of both the preliminary plat and the final plat.
Questions? Any comments from the Planning Commission, Amanda?
Oh, it was very cut and dry, no concerns.
Okay. If there is no questions, I would entertain a motion to approve the preliminary plat.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
By Jim, seconded by Amanda. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. We'll now consider the approval of the final plat of the Tiger Office Park.
Move approval.
Second.
By Craig, seconded by Jim. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. Motion passes. Agenda item number 21 is the Camden Trail, the northern section overlay project. We have a resolution that would authorizing the agent of the Department of Transportation for the Transportation Alternatives Project, or the AP project, as well as a resolution identifying the responsibility for the operation and maintenance for the Transportation Alternatives Project. So, Jason, you go ahead with this.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Included in the packet, Stephen, there should be an exhibit that identifies the segments of trail that we're speaking about here. Every year, MnDOT's ATP, District 8 ATP solicits for transportation alternative grants applications. We'd like to submit an application for this project to overlay this trail segment here, generally from Highway 59 heading to the east over to 23 and then down parallel with 23 into the college's property. This trail was constructed in 2009. The grant funds would become available in 2029. By that time, it'll be ready for a mill and overlay. So we think that this is a good project to target for a TA grant. TA grant is federal. It's an 80-20 split, so the city needs to come up with a 20% match. Eric Hansen's put together a grant application, and we're ready to submit it with your authorization. To submit a grant, we also need these two resolutions that we're asking for you to approve tonight. One is to designate Eric Hansen as the agent for the city of Marshall on this project and this grant. And the other is to identify the city as the responsible party for operation and maintenance of this project once it's completed. If there are any questions, I can address them. The current estimate we have for the project is $452,000. So the TA grant amount would be $361,600. The city would have to come up with the difference, and we don't have a funding source identified yet at this time, but that's something that we can work on over the next 5 years while we put this together and hopefully slot it in our capital improvement plan. We've had pretty good success with this grant. In District 8, there's not a lot of cities that are our size, so we have kind of a leg up at getting these grants. And with our extensive trail system, it makes a lot of sense to identify some cost participation.
And one possible source for the local participation would be a state AT or active transportation grant.
Correct. We've had some success recently with applying for state funds to provide the match on these federal grants. We did that for this upcoming year's C Street Southview Trail project, where it's all grant funded, and we would look to apply for an AT grant in the future as well.
Questions?
I do have a question, and you can maybe help me understand this, but the trail's only going to be approximately 20 years old. Roads seem to last longer than that with more traffic before overlays. What is the reason of doing a bike trail within 20 years? What's the wear and tear? What causes it to wear out? I mean, I just want to throw away $80,000 if we don't have to.
Sure. That's a good question. We're typically only planning for our blacktop roads to last around 20 years. If we can do, we can do better with some of them sometimes, but they also have a better section. There's more gravel, there's subsurface drainage. We're building better roads than we are trails, for example. And the blacktop just ages with weather, sun, rain, wind, right? It causes it to get brittle, crack, and becomes a less than ideal surface. You do have trails in your community that are older, but they get very rough and in very poor shape, and we want to prevent that. So by hitting them with an overlay at the 20-year mark, we think we're doing the best for the trail system.
And then my last question is, between Justice Park and 59, has the flooding of the trail been taken care of? Is that why that part is not in red? That flooding, because I know it floods underneath that bridge there someplace, doesn't it?
Yes, Preston had some funds through the Parks Department that we used a few years ago to replace that section.
And that part is concrete, so.
That's why I see that's not on there. Thank you. I just clarified that all. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I'd speak in favor of this because that trail gets a lot of use. And we want Marshall to be a biking community, a destination community. People enjoy that. People get out and walk it, run it, bike it, ski it in the winter. It's a great trail. And Jim, I'll also talk to the argument you made about the blacktop. You hit a bump or a hole with a bike going 20 miles an hour, a heck of a lot more damage will be done to you and your bike than in a car and hitting a pothole at 20 miles an hour.
Well, I just wanted to have the clarification so the public, because some people say, and that was a good answer. I don't bike that fast. I'm lucky if I bike 5 miles an hour, so. All.
Then the pothole will just tip you over.
Correct. You're right.
You'll still get hurt.
Well, if you get caught on your three-wheeler, you just keep making a circle. Yeah.
So I sense we're ready for a motion.
I move.
I want to move that.
Okay, you move, I'll second.
I'll move.
Seconded by Craig. The discussion on the motion. The only discussion would be I need to abstain because I chair the ATP where the TA grants are made, and I'm on the state transportation committee where the active transportation awards are made. So I need to abstain.
I also want to clarify that the motion is to approve both resolutions.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes. Any other discussion on that? If not, we'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. Oh, excuse me. After seeing I was going to abstain, and then here I voted in favor of it, so.
What is?
Wipe them out.
So can I'm,
There we go.
Bob has abs.
okay, that motion does pass. Okay, so then we'll move then to the next agenda item. Agenda item number 22, consider the approval of the 2025 to 2039 lease agreement with the golf range use between the City of Marshall and Marshall Golf Club. And we have a resolution that would authorize the execution of that agreement. Sharon, are you going to handle this?
Sure. Mayor and council, the city acquired the current golf range land in 1983 as part of airport acquisition. To the best of our knowledge, the golf range was established at or near the same time frame. We know that the back nine was established in 1972. So that's why we are figuring the range likely started around the 1983 time. We have had prior lease agreements with the Marshall Golf Club prior to 2010. The latest agreement was from 2010 to the end of 2024. We have renegotiated a new 15-year agreement. We have negotiated incremental increases each of the 5 years at 5-year increments. The Marshall Golf Board has signed this agreement. The city attorney has reviewed the agreement, and she has also recommended a resolution authorizing the execution of the driving range agreement. Couple things I'll just stipulate in the agreement. It does stipulate the golf course must keep the range open to the public, which they are now a public course. So the course itself is open to the public, but the range is open to the public and has been since its inception. And then also some insurance requirements as well that the city attorney put in the agreement. So we are recommending approval of the agreement and adoption of the resolution, Mr. Mayor.
And Stephen, that can be handled in one motion. Are there any questions about the recommendation?
Move to approve.
Second.
Steve, seconded by Craig. Discussion?
I just have a question.
Yes, Steve.
I don't know anything about golf, so what is the difference between golf range, driving range, and the golf course?
Range driving is just for practice. You just take range balls typically that are provided by the golf course.
Yep.
And you practice. That's it.
Hit him as hard as you can.
Come to the neighbor.
Okay.
There's putting green too.
And there's no fee to do that.
Yes, there is.
You have to purchase
The balls.
balls or a driving range membership.
Okay.
So.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. The motion does pass. Move then to agenda item number 23, to appoint Pam Whitmore, Kennedy and Graven as the civil attorney, and Matt Gross as the criminal attorney, and approve the legal services agreement for those services with Kennedy and Graven and Cornstrom and Doring. And as I reported at our last regular meeting, and the council took action on that, the recommendation would be to appoint both. This is to follow up with the actual agreement that would provide the employment for those purposes. Discussion. Sharon, you have anything you want to add?
I just want to add, and I know that this was stated about history of actual and value of the work when we met with them, that it'd be the leadership team. And then I know, Mr. Mayor, you met with both Ms. Whitmore and Mr. Gross, that we do also receive a lot of in-kind legal advice from both attorneys, things that are not charged or billable. So you see the retainer fee here, but there's greater value being provided by both attorneys as well.
Questions?
I move approval of the agreements.
Motion by Craig. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jim. Now discussion. Steve?
My question is, for the cost of the attorneys, we have the retainer and we have the hourly wage. How much have we spent last year? Do we know? And how does that compare to previous years?
So EJ Moberg is looking up the answer.
EJ's arduously typing, looking.
I'll comment just as he's looking that up. I mean, each year is different. December of last year, we had a police shooting that took a tremendous amount of time in December and January of 2024. I can't speak for the criminal side, but certainly on the civil side. We heard from Broadmoor. There's been additional work on that. The cannabis ordinance, which was something that we were forced to do by the state of Minnesota. So I know I sound defensive, and Pam can speak for herself maybe, but those are just some of the things that I think of at the top that makes it different than maybe prior years.
Sure. So maybe the better question, and EJ, you won't have time to do this tonight, but is an average.
Sure.
To see. I mean, I think for the record, I think we've gotten a great deal from Pam. I think she's done a great job. Some of the questions that I have would be like, when we look at the city attorney will bill us out of pocket for postage mounted, blah, blah, blah. Photocopying, all that kind of stuff, that's kind of standard and typical, so.
Mr. Mayor, can I give some insight?
Go ahead, Pam.
Thank you, Councilmember Meister. Just so you know, and EJ or Sharon can verify that, those are in the agreement. I don't think that we've ever charged you for any type of postage.
That's correct.
Or mileage. So
You know,
it's in that agreement, but it's nothing that we've ever charged for you.
and less visible to the council, of course, is the prosecution work that Matt Gross does. But that is well documented, the time that he's spending on prosecution and court time.
So year-to-date, we've paid out almost 170,000, so that'd be for the retainer plus the additional services. In 2023, our city, we paid out $195,600 for such said services, and then back in '22, it was $140,961.
Good. Thank you, EJ.
Thank you, EJ. Any other discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. Then to agenda item number 24, consider the approval of the 5-year capital improvement plan. This, of course, was discussed at previous workshop sessions, but I'll call on EJ Moberg to present this agenda item.
Thank you. So included in the packet is the capital improvement plan by funding source and by department, both. It's the same plan, just sorted differently. So have gone over those, as the mayor said, at numerous work sessions and council meetings since the budget process began. So we're at the point where we're asking for approval and adoption of the 5-year capital improvement plan.
Questions about the 5-year CIP?
Not a question, I just make a comment, and I think I make this every year for the public. This gives us a good blueprint of what we're going to do. It's not money that has been spent yet. It's good to lay it out for our finance department for bonding, as any good business should have a plan laid out. But as we get into budget, or as we get into talks about stuff, it is not money that is spent. It is money that will be possibly approved to be spent next year.
Just helps us get our priority list and to keep track of our needs. And as we have to make decisions, we tend to be moving things around.
Yes.
And as it is a 5-year plan, the most accurate part of that plan is year 1 of that plan and year 2.
And it starts going away from there.
It's a wish list.
To approve it.
Motion by Jim, seconded by Craig. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. Agenda item number 25 is consider the resolution that would adopt the tax levy for year 25. And agenda item number 26 is the resolution that would adopt the 2025 budget. So this was presented at the Truth and Taxation hearing 1 week ago, and then this is the recommendation coming forward where I'll call on EJ Moberg, and you can address both of these agenda items. However, we obviously act on them separately. EJ.
Thank you. So as we have also discussed at previous work sessions and council meetings, our preliminary levy that was set in September was an increase of 9.8% from the 2024 property tax levy. We are recommending, staff does recommend no changes to that levy, to continue to set that levy at the $9,869,560, which is that 9.8% increase, which then fits into our budget as presented in the next resolution, as the mayor mentioned, to approve the budgets. where we do have budgets there with an attached, with the levy is the resolution is after the budgets, and it does, again, specify the revenues and expenditures in the general fund for 2025 with the appropriate levy amount for the general fund in there as well, as part of that 9.8 million. We do the revenues and expenditures laid out as a dollar amount, so it's easier for our auditors to tie out as they look for budget approval.
Okay. Thank you, EJ. Questions, general questions for EJ? If not, I would consider a motion on the resolution that would adopt the tax levy for 2025.
I move adoption of the tax levy for 2025.
Motion by Craig, seconded by John. Discussion?
Well, the only thing I'd like to add to this, and I know that we've had 3 years of, I would say, higher levies in my opinion, but this year's levy there's a 2% increase to get us out of enterprise, which is a program that did not work out as planned. There's a little bit of short-term pain for, I think, a great long-term gain. And also in the last 3-4 years, we've all heard about support for our police, and our police were underpaid 4 years ago when we did our comp study. I'm correct in saying that, Sharon? And we have shown our support to our police officers, try to retain them because they do a great job. And as a community, I think that's something our community greatly supports. I, as a council member, knows that we really got to look at the budget for next year. But I'm just saying that because I will support the 9.8. Usually I don't, but I will this year to get us out of enterprise and to keep supporting our police in our effort to get their wages where they should be.
Other discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. And the motion passes. We'll now consider the resolution that would adopt the 2025 budget.
I move that resolution.
I'll second.
Motion by Craig, seconded by Jim. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. And the motion does pass.
Mr. Mayor, I just want a quick moment to thank all the staff and council for all the work that we've put into doing the budgets. It's never an easy task, and just appreciate all the effort that's put into that to get a good, honest budget.
Yeah, thank you. We'll move then to agenda item number 27, the adoption of the City of Marshall Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategic Plan for 2025 to 2030. Sharon, this past year, the committee has gone through the strategic plan, so we're here to consider that strategic plan. I think we've seen that before, but you have a presentation on that plan.
Yeah, I just have a brief slide just to kind of give a little background on the original establishment of the DEI Commission and what the plan entails in a brief matter. I will want to point out our staff liaison for our DEI Commission is our Community Education Director, Jasmine DeSmet. She is here with us tonight. And as well, one of the co-chairs of the DEI Commission, Amber, is also here. So if there were any questions, they can certainly help out. Stephen, where do I point this to? There? Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about George Floyd because in 2020, some of that related a little bit to Marshall, and I'll point that out. And I have this photo up just to kind of, as it relates a little bit to Marshall, actually the art mural that's on 3rd. One of the main artists for 3rd Street mural is actually one of the artists that did the George Floyd mural in Minneapolis, Greta McLean. So a little bit of a connection between the two murals here in Marshall and the one in Minneapolis. I got to toggle between my computer and this. I can't see it all from here. But just some background on Marshall, I know you know this. We do have about 22% of the population that do identify as a race other than white. When we look at our median household income and compared to the state, it is lower. Now, this is true for a lot of rural areas in the state of Minnesota. It's only the suburbs and maybe some areas around Duluth where the average median household income matches the state. Our major employers, being in food production, we've been titled as a market town. So some of our employees also reflect diversity of the 22% non-white. And then Southwest State, due to the affordability of Southwest State, also has an attraction of different diverse populations. And then for the Marshall School District, we know that there's 30 different languages spoken at the Marshall School District. So just some background on our Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Commission. The city, prior to the DEI Commission, actually had a Human Rights Commission, and we had that all the way up until the establishment of the DEI Commission. Stephen pointed out that he felt that this was established in 1983. We're not entirely sure. 1964 with the Civil Rights Act, where a lot of cities actually established a Human Rights Commission following that approval of that act. And then in 1967, the state of Minnesota formed the Minnesota Human Rights Agency, which is still in existence. So a lot of cities in the mid to late 60s actually established a Human Rights Commission. The city did as well. Initially, it was for employment and housing and public accommodations. It has expanded since that time, but the city did have a part to play early on regarding human rights. Just some additional impetus for us establishing the DEI Commission. And actually in 2019, we had a World Cafe event that was really well attended by the community. We had it at the YMCA. And that input received there actually had us adopt our strategic plan in 2020. That strategic plan in 2020 identified DEI as a goal for the city, and it was something that the public also commented on as a need for the city. Just want to briefly talk about 2020. So we had the World Cafe in 2019. 2020, we had a school district flag controversy. These are just some of the events that happened, not necessarily related to the city intently, but what was happening in our community. In May 25th, the George Floyd protests occurred. Actually, in June in Marshall, there was a peaceful protest for George Floyd as well. That upper left photo is a photo from the city of Marshall on that particular evening in June. In July, we had an incident with a couple who were displaying swastikas. Of course, this was during COVID. I know there was different feelings during that particular time. It did make national news. Kind of following up on that, the mayor and the SMSU president did issue a statement on hate as well. So all these kind of things were happening around 2020 as well, which led to, in 2021, the city moving from a Human Rights Commission to actually establishing the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Commission in January of 2021. Shortly thereafter, we did take applications for the commission and had a lot of interest on sitting on the particular commission. I believe we had more applicants than seats at that particular time. Again, lots of energy and interest around DEI at that particular time. One of the great ways we were really able to kick off the DEI Commission was actually a grant. We've received a lot of grants since the establishment, which has helped us fund some of the different things that the city has done. And I just want to point out, because of the different grants, the actual budget impact is less than 0.05% as a budget as a whole. Very small amounts of dollars are actually spent on DEI in the city because we have grants and partnerships with others. This particular one did allow us to have an intern. Councilmember Muleski was able to secure a Department of Education grant, and I just wanted to point out a lot of the early work was done by our intern, and probably couldn't be where we are today without that particular grant. You know, a lot of the things that we've done are communication, awareness. The city itself has done some training. I believe there's been 2 or 3 different trainings that city staff have taken a part of. But we've done different events throughout the community. We've also, the DEI Commission itself has conducted different World Cafes. And then I do want to talk a little bit about some of our infrastructure as well. Some of the transportation projects that we do, everything from ADA sidewalk replacements to our trail projects, really to increase connectivity, transportation accessibility, is really about advancing equity and inclusion for our different populations. We know that as well. Our Parks Department, led by Preston Stedrud, has done, with the help of council, of course, establishment of inclusive playgrounds, which have been highly supported by our community as well. And then we have provided resources of DEI on our webpage and so forth. Just some different photos of our past events. Welcoming Week, which is held in September. We did sponsor Juneteenth in 2020, this past year actually, as a city event. And then the upper left is a picture of our inclusive playground. Want to just really briefly talk about what has worked really well. I think we're really good at some of our events. We have really great partnerships. SMSU has been a really good and strong partner and supportive of our work. And then the Southwest Initiative Foundation as well has provided support financially for us to conduct some of our work here in the city. Again, demographically, just based on the population, it really kind of supports the work that we do in this particular area. Do want to briefly talk about challenges as well. DEI is a really broad topic. I know that even the commission itself sometimes has actually been challenged with, what is a good direction to go. That's one of the reasons we really looked at doing a strategic plan, is kind of helping us provide focus in particular areas. I also want to say we don't put a lot of funding towards DEI. It has provided some challenges at times. And again, demographically, even though we have 22% at non-white, we still don't have critical mass. We're a small community, and that can be a challenge as well. So just briefly on our strategic plan, in 2023, the DEI Commission discussed the need for a strategic plan. In 2024, we did contract with a strategic plan facilitator. This did include initial interviews with key stakeholders. We did form a subcommittee to further develop key areas of focus. And there were surveys of the DEI Commission city staff, and if you may remember as well, city council, to get input on the DEI Commission, or strategic plan rather. We did do a SWOT analysis, which is typical for a strategic plan. I did include in the packet, I believe there's a one page that kind of summarizes this and makes it a little bit more clear to read. But some of the things I mentioned about challenges and opportunities were also a part of the SWOT analysis. So again, we had a subcommittee formed in May. We had initial review of the plan by the DEI Commission in September. The DEI Commission actually did approve the strategic plan document that you see tonight in November, and recommended that the council also adopt it. One thing you remember, that the council and city did adopt a general strategic plan for the city as a whole. And that particular facilitator really wanted to leave it to the DEI Commission to focus on DEI, but the strategic plan itself for the city does continue to have DEI as a goal. Very simplistic goals for the city. First of all, three main goals. One is internal capacity, processes, and systems. Briefly on those, we really want to focus on making the DEI Commission stronger. Even though we had really strong interest in the beginning to serve, it's waning a little bit, and part of that may be not having focus on goals. So we want to kind of reflect on how we conduct our meeting, how we make decisions, how we can kind of learn from each other. So that's a part of that goal. And then relationship building with other government entities and communities. Although we have relationships strongly with SMSU, how could we potentially expand that? I'll mention one particular example. When the chamber does a small group roundtable of businesses, One of the things that they commonly mention over and over again is finding employees and attracting them, and really encouraging the chamber to reach out to diverse populations and to kind of help them with their particular situation as a business within the city of Marshall. So we do mention that as well in terms of building relationships. And then really just continuing community engagement and communication. We've done a lot of events and sponsorships. We develop a website, resource page. We really want to continue that. A lot of those goals we are already doing, and hopefully we can keep the momentum going. Tonight we are looking at City Council approval of the DEI Commission. We do, similar to our city plan, consider it a living document, and we will go forward, have staff and the DEI Commission focus on the particular actions and timelines, and if we need to adjust as time goes on, we're certainly open to that. I know we've had, at least I've had some discussion with the chairs a little bit about the term DEI that's been talked nationally. We don't want to stigmatize the community or our work and make it negative in any way. And if there's an opportunity for us to look at how to make this more effective and not a hurdle for individuals, we'll certainly look at it and not be hung up on what's in our document tonight. We're willing to evolve and change on the particular aspects of the plan. So that was just a short background on DEI, the history, where we've come, where we're at today. And we are just recommending approval to help support the DEI Commission's work.
Thank you, Sharon.
Yep.
Thank you for your work on this. C, as liaison to the commission, any comments you want to make?
No, the consultant they used did a really good job of making sure that, we come up with a plan, because I know that was one thing we struggled with, was having direction for the commission. And, as Sharon had stated, that might have been why we have such dwindling participation. So I hope with having a focus now that we'll be able to get more people into here and we can start getting some action, because I'm an action person. Sometimes sit too long and I start to get bored, right? So I'm really excited for this strategic plan. And I think, I know Sharon was worried about some of the goals we had seem a bit lofty, but I reminded her, we've already done half of this stuff.
Yeah.
Unintentionally, because there's been a lot of partnership with it. So I'm really excited to put this into place.
Thank you, C. Any other questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to adopt the City of Marshall Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategic Plan.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion by C, seconded by Amanda. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. And we'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. We'll move then to agenda item number 28, consider appointments to boards, commissions, and authorities. Earlier this evening, council met in special session, interviewed applicants for the library board. And based on those applications, I would recommend that Anne Marie Vorbach be reappointed to a second term on the library board. That term would expire December 31st, 2027. That Mary Jane Strigel be appointed to a term on the library board, her first term. That would expire on 12/31/2027. And that Jan Loft be appointed to her first term on the library board. That term would expire December 31st, 2028. I'd offer that as a recommendation to the council and entertain a motion to.
So moved.
Motion by Steve, seconded by Jim. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. Then we'll close the voting. The motion does pass. We'll move then to council member commission board liaison reports. Craig?
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Steve?
None of mine have met. EDA meets tomorrow, and I'll let Amanda take that one.
Amanda?
Here. Public Housing Commission met yesterday. Just one big thing is they're working on a sewer line update at the Parkview. This is the high-rise apartments, kind of working out logistics on that as it's a big project.
Good. The Southwest Regional Development Commission did receive their 2021-22 audit and are still working on their 2022-23 as well as their 24 audit. They had a change in finance directors. Their auditor, in the midst of that, didn't renew their single-purpose audit certification, so they had to switch auditors. So they are really doing 3 audits at a time now. So, but it's going well now. John?
MMU meets tomorrow night.
See?
CVB met, and they are donating to the YMCA Indoor Playground Project. We did a recap of the Fairbanks Ice Dogs. We had a little drop in attendance, but somebody won a trip to Alaska to go see the game there. So they are looking for an intern, and they do have some puzzles available for sale that is of the M an artist did. So if you still need Christmas shopping, pick up a puzzle from them. And they approved some community tourism grants. That's all I have.
Thank you, see, Jim?
I have nothing.
We'll move then to council member individual items. Jim?
I just wish everybody happy holidays and be safe over the holiday season.
See?
I will be volunteering at the Heart to Heart this Saturday. It's moved from, just so everybody knows, it's moved from the Armory to the lower conference room, right, at SMSU. So if anybody, if you are helping somebody pick up food or things like that, I will be there. And then they are also still looking for some volunteers. So if you go to their website, they are still looking for some people to help direct traffic and things. It's supposed to be a little cold, but. And then just kind of off the DEI topic, an event that the City of Marshall, SMSU, Southwest Initiative Foundation, Visit Marshall, and MINRA, which is Minnesota River Area Agency on Aging, we are hosting our annual It Begins With Us conference, and it is moved this year from SMSU over to the upper room. And it will be February 10th and 11th, and that February 10th will be a virtual dementia tour. So if you ever want to know what it feels like to have dementia, this is a really great simulation so that we have empathy and more understanding of our aging parents and our grandparents, or if you work in the healthcare facility, to be able to have that understanding. And then Tuesday is our cultural awareness event, and we've got a great agenda planned. So hopefully you come and join us. We will put it on the DEI page on the City of Marshall for people to register on there. That's all I have.
Thank you, see. John?
Nothing.
Craig?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'd want to echo what Councilmember Lozinski said. I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And Dr. Meister, it's been a real pleasure being your council neighbor here. Thanks. Once in a while, I let my issues land in your lap, so it's all good.
Once in a while.
Literally once in a while.
Literally once, yeah.
And we're going to go to Amanda. I'm going to have you go last.
Okay.
So, Amanda
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Thanks, Steve.
and Steve.
So this is my last council meeting after 8 years, and I have thoroughly enjoyed it. I learned a lot in that 8 years, and if people think that it's simple to be a council member, run. That's all I can say. There's a lot that goes on. We have a great city staff. They do a lot of work. They listen. They take the guidance from the council very well. And occasionally when we have a disagreement, they educate you and you have an open mind and you get to where you need to go. It's a beautiful opportunity, so I would encourage people to run. It's a great way to learn about city government. It's a great way to participate in your community. And it's been an honor to serve with such a great group of council members and the mayor and the city staff. So thank you for the opportunity. Thank you to the constituents for voting me and trusting me for the past 8 years. I have enjoyed it. I hope I've done an adequate job. And now it's time to move on to watch my youngest child develop into a great kid, because when that time goes too fast.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Let's give him a round. The only thing I would add once again, thank you, Steve. For the remaining council members, I'm still working on the appointments to various boards and commissions, the liaisons. I'll try to get that out to you before the first of the year. Our next meeting is not until January 14th of 2025, so we do have some time. You do have the remaining items on the agenda, which includes our report of cash and investments, our listing of building permits, and our listing of upcoming meetings.
Staff reports.
And our staff reports. Sharon.
Just briefly, we have still negotiation requirements with ASME. And so if you're wondering why the lights are on Friday, this coming Friday at 5 o'clock, Sheila and I are going to be at the negotiation table. So we're looking forward to having a Friday evening together. Right? Okay. Anyway.
Sounds like fun.
Anyway, also thanks to Dr. Meister. You were on the hiring panel when I got hired, so I really appreciate that and just all the support. You've been really awesome. So thank you. That's all I had, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Sharon. Jason?
Nothing beyond, thank you to Dr. Meister as well for your service.
And City Attorney Pam?
I would echo that as well, and I also just want to thank the council for renewing our relationship together and for the next couple of years, and we appreciate you taking the leap of faith and working with us. So thank you.
That concludes our agenda items. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Steve, seconded by Craig. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. Close the voting.
Yeah.
Hey. You better vote no. Turn red, Santa Claus.
Motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you.